I just got back from the theaters from watching Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. Super pumped. We're gonna jump right into it. Remember, please to leave a like, subscribe if you can. I'd very much appreciate it. So I'm gonna start non-spoiler, just mention in general some stuff about the movie, and then I'll get into spoilers later on into the review. I'll let you guys know exactly when that happens, so you can hop on out if you don't want to hear any spoilers. You want to go check out the movie, and then you can come back and check it out later. So a bit of a disclaimer going into it. There was actually some traffic. Heading into the theater, so I actually ended up getting into the movie a little late. I'm pretty sure I missed out like on a whole like opening scene. I'm hoping there wasn't anything too important there, but if it's anything, I'm a little worried if it's anything like Black Widow. Yeah, there was a lot that went down in just like the beginning, like the first like 20 minutes of the movie. I think I missed maybe, I want to say I missed maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. I think less, not any more than 10 minutes. So yeah. So I'm not sure maybe this was a direct result of that, but one of the things that I liked is that like coming into the movie, I got a very quick introduction of the characters and who they were, and then we got straight into it with the action, right? I mean, almost immediately we get I'd say probably the one action set piece that was probably shown off the most in commercials and promo for the movie, which is the bus fight scene. And man, what a way to start it off. That fight was really helped just like right off the bat set the tone, set the mood, like set the standard for which the movie was going for. It set the bar high and it was hard pressed to go any lower than that for the rest of the movie. On the note of the fight scenes, I'll say that I enjoyed them very much. I found that they were very well choreographed. Cinematography as well. There were some moments where the camera would position itself into different angles to try to get a better a better view of the fight and what exactly the actors were doing, and it was phenomenal. It was such a breath of fresh air to finally see like well choreographed and performed fights in one of these MCU I guess I'm gonna say MCU projects now that we have the TV series in place, and I'm mainly thinking of the TV series, especially, I mean, Loki being the one most recently that comes to mind where the fighting was just a little lackluster. I always felt like it just lacked a lot of impact. But yeah, as of late, I find that I've been a little hard pressed to find any fight choreography to be impressive in any MCU movie or any of the TV series that have been released on Disney Plus. Even Black Widow, I mean, normally in I think of Black Widow and I think of, some very like epic fight scene moments, but in the movie itself, I can't really like, nothing really comes to mind. I think mainly of like explosions and like big action sequences, but nothing really like, I can't, I guess maybe when Taskmaster was fighting. Oh yeah, that was a good moment. Yeah, yeah. When like the first encounter between Taskmaster and Black Widow, Natasha on the bridge. There was a little bit of a sparring there, and that was pretty cool actually. But it wasn't much of that. Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, Taskmaster was underutilized overall. Um, so yeah, I mean, I felt like this movie it was just like a breath of fresh air back with like that, with the choreographed fights, and man, did they deliver, man. They were it was something that I've just been longing for MCU projects for quite a while now, and this movie delivered on that. It scratched that itch that I've had for quite a while now. So that was very nice. I also want to say, watching the movie in IMAX, I noticed that they utilized the audio design very well within the fights itself, especially with the bus fight scene there. There was this moment where things came to a kind of pause and where like the fight pretty much was about to reset to start off again, and you heard like the bass like once it was about to take off again, like the bass came in and just like really added to like the impact of everything. So I feel that you utilized that very well as well. I didn't notice it so much in any of the fights afterwards, but that may have just been I may have just gotten like lost within the movie. But at least for that moment, it was for that like opening that being like the very first thing. And I hope there wasn't anything in like the opening like 10 minutes that I missed, but that being the first thing that like I saw just really like did a perfect job of just setting like the bar and the mood for the rest of the film. In terms of visuals, some of the CGI was, I don't know what it's been lately with a lot of the MCU projects. There was like some, I want to say, well, at first I wanted to say maybe because of COVID, right? But I feel like, I don't know, as of late, I don't know if it's just because maybe I've been playing like too many video games with like really good graphics or something like that. But yeah, some of the CGI in some of the movies and some of the TV shows as well. Yeah, just not holding up, man. So to clarify, it wasn't all bad. There were definitely like good, like there were definitely moments where the CGI was ridiculously good, but it's just not consistent. There are like these moments where you kind of where you see that it's very much, yeah, not taking as much time and care into it, or maybe it's just more difficult, whatever the case may be. I mean, these are things that are just way outside of my skill set. So I'm not one to say, but it's very blatant. You can very blatant see that, you know, there are some areas where it's a lot uh, done a lot better, whether that's comes down to, you know, the person doing it or the amount of time or effort put into it. I can't say, but yeah, just pointing that out. There were some rough moments. With I really enjoyed the story. I was very much looking forward to this film in the sense that coming at it from the point of view where it's not as well known of a hero, right? It's not a Captain America. It's not an Iron Man. And thus, with that, there's not as much pressure, right, to kind of like, I guess, to tell the story compared to its source material. I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind the most is Guardians of the Galaxy. When, you know, when that came out, everyone was, yeah, nobody had a clue what to expect from that. And because of that, yeah, it was refreshing, right? Because they pretty much had just like a somewhat of a, you know, an empty canvas to, you know, tell a unique story that, you know, sets it apart from everything else that we've seen thus far in the MCU. And I feel they took took good advantage of that, and it was very refreshing, right, to kind of just explore and get to know this whole new, you know, side of the MCU that's been untouched, right, while at the same time still having its little winks and nods to things in the MCU. I mean, the one that stands out the most, and the one that I can mention here, non spoilers, is Wong and the Abomination duking it out in like some kind of fight club that was shown in the commercials, right? So you still it's still based in the same world, right? But I'd say around like the halfway point of the movie, it pretty much sets a departure, and it very much just branches out to like its own like little separate nest in the entirety of the that is the MCU, right? And it they did a good job of that to set itself apart, right, and just make it stand out from everything else that we've seen thus far. I very much enjoyed the performances. As for a standout, I've very much enjoyed. I don't even know her name. Let me look it up. Okay, I apologize beforehand because I know I'm gonna butcher these names. So, Manga Shang as Xialing Shu. Um, Shang-Chi's sister. I really enjoyed yeah, I really liked her performance and like her portrayal of the sister. I thought she was really cool. Just like her story, what she had to go through, and like how she kind of yeah, how she steps up and plays a big role in everything that plays out, and I very much enjoyed her portrayal of that character. Other than that, as far as performances go, I'd say the real comes down between the relationship between Shang-Chi and the Mandarin, right? That father-son relationship, and I believe, and I feel Simu Liu and Tony Leung did a great job of portraying that. Tony Leung, especially, you know, him being the father figure, right? Um, there were these moments. you didn't expect it going into it, right? I mean, you saw like the commercials and like the promos, and they it was something that was very much, you know, put out in front, right? This struggle with the father-son dynamic, with the Mandarin wanting Shang-Chi to take over the Ten Rings. But about halfway through the movie, we realized that they actually put the Mandarin in this pretty vulnerable position, right? And we kind of get to see at least a side that I wasn't expecting to see from him, right? So I believe so. The actor, you know, Tony Leung did a really good job of portraying both those sides, right? The sternness of being the Mandarin, right? You know, this ruthless leader of a giant criminal empire, but at the same time having, you know, the tenderness of a father, and you know the relationships that are connected to that, right? That's all I'll say for now, to avoid spoilers. I really like the wardrobe in this movie. I really like the way the characters were dressed, especially Xialing when she first is introduced. She looks really badass, really cool, and the signature Shang-Chi getup that you know we all see, that's he's shown in the posters and everywhere. You know that red getup. Once they actually show it, and he's it's bestowed upon him, and you get the kind of backstory, or you get some details, some additional details as far as like how it's put together and how it's made. It makes it even cooler than it already looked in the pictures. So yeah, overall positive. Yeah, just positive things to say. You know, all across the board, right? If I had to say something a little bit more towards the negative side, I guess I want to say that it was towards the start of the movie. It was very, I want to say it was very personal. Like in terms of like that's something that I get from like the hand to hand combat. You know, the choreographed fights. I feel it's very, especially when it's very well done. Right, it's very personal, and it's much more satisfying, and it just pays off a lot more than say like a big like CGI mess. Right. My personal opinion. Right. So throughout the movie, it started off, you know, with these great actions sequences, with you know this with great choreographed fights and cinematography as well. And as the movie progressed, it got more into the wild side, let's say. So we started to see more CGI, more like craziness. It took me out of it a little bit, right? It definitely, yeah, like I said, it's just for me, and I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same, but it's just less of a less personal touch, right? So yeah, once all the CGI madness going on started going on, and you know, it's just everything's moving at like 100 miles per minute, and it's just, and I'm watching this on IMAX too, so the screen is huge, and I'm like having to like actually like turn my head to see like one corner to the other corner to make sure that I'm not like missing everything, and like things are moving at like 100 miles per hour, and it's just a bunch of CGI madness. At one point, I'm just like, what the heck is going on? But they didn't overdo it. It was a good balance, right, of that, you know, personal like hand to hand combat stuff with the CGI madness. And the CGI madness was cool too. Like what they showed was actually like pretty neat. So like yeah, I can't complain too much. But yeah, just a little tidbit there. Final verdict, I'd say definitely worth a watch. Yeah, as far as origin stories go, right? As far for these superheroes, we've seen it done, God, countless times now, right? All across the board, not just MCU, but also you know, outside of the MCU, taking into account like Batman and Superman and all that stuff. And you know, with origin stories, it's always sometimes it can be tough, right? It can be tough as far as like falling into cliches, or you know, set formulas as far as like what people are going to expect to see from the movie. You know, like you don't want to spend too much time in certain aspects of it, right? I mean, like what I really appreciated about this is that we started off the movie, um, at least when I got into the theater 10 minutes late, We started off the movie seeing Shang-Chi already like set, right? There wasn't an overly abundant amount of time dedicated to his development, right? When we started the movie, we got Shang-Chi, right? As he is, kind of like the finished product, right? Not 100%, but almost there, right? He did learn some things along with the way in the movie, but we basically got, where he stood, as far as his abilities and what he was able to do. I very much enjoyed that, right? I very much feel like it helped with like the pacing of the film. It helped us um focus more on what was actually on the actual conflict of the movie, right? And what was going on there as opposed to what happened to him, his like origin story, quote unquote, him growing up and going through what he had to do in order for him to become and have the abilities that he has at that moment, right? It was very well paced, it was well organized, and as far as origin stories goes, it was yeah, it was very enjoyable. All right, that's non-spoilers. So I'm about to get into some spoilers, mentioning some specific details about the movie. So if you haven't watched it and don't want to get spoiled, go ahead and click off. But keep it, put it on your watch later list, right? So you can come back and kind of, see what we had to say about spoilers, and that way you can comment on that if you'd like. So last warning, spoilers. Talking about spoilers, starting now. The Abomination versus Wong scene. I didn't know I'm not sure what to make of it much. It definitely seemed like there was some familiarity between the characters. So Wong definitely knew who the Abomination was. He actually addresses him by his first name and everything. And then afterwards, once they're done fighting, Wong opens up a portal where they both walk through. And on the other side, it can't really make out exactly what it is, but to me, it kind of seemed like it was the Raft prison. So I don't know if he was just like sent there to like they got word that he was there, and they just sent him to kind of like just wrestle him up to lock him up in jail. Not sure, but yeah, it was interesting. So there's this one character called the Death Dealer. I think he's been shown very sparsely in like the promo stuff. But it turned it turned out it was actually kind of funny what they did with him, because they set him up to like kind of as an kind of obstacle, I guess you can say, for Shang-Chi to overcome. Him being, I guess, one of like the main one of I guess his one of the main instructors of Shang-Chi when he was growing up and taught to fight and be an assassin essentially. So you were kind of led to believe that maybe there would be this moment where like they would go head to head, and Shang-Chi would get the better of him. But nope, he just gets his soul sucked out by yeah, some soul sucking monsters. So yeah, we'll get into that later. So but it was yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic. It was weird. I understand why they didn't do it too. I think it would have taken too long to, and I guess they wanted to put the focus primarily on like the relationship, or the the that yeah, the relationship or the struggle between father son, Shang-Chi and the Mandarin. But so yeah, it was just a little funny, just that he seemed like such a cool character, and like even the one choreographed fight scene where they actually do go head to head for until the fight is interrupted. He stands out, so it's just a little funny that he just ends up kind of just, yeah, being casted aside like that. So the part where I said basically where like basically halfway through the movie, that the movie just takes a big departure as far as like the world that it explores. And what I meant specifically by that was getting into the world of Ta Lo, right? And all the different creatures that come out of there, and the vibrancy that we see from that world, right? And then we get the lore, we get the people of Shang-Chi's mother, well, where she was from. Those people are tasked, to protecting this kind of this gateway to this dark world. And it just, from that point, it just became the movie. got its acquired its identity, right? That was the moment where it just set itself apart, and it was just so refreshing just to explore this new and intriguing and interesting world with all these different creatures and these characters, and it was amazing. For once I had no idea about any of that stuff, right? Once we got to dive into that world and see what it was all about, and see how it related to Shang-Chi, and it was it was delightful. It was just a breath of fresh air, and it was for me. It'll be the thing that sets it apart from, and makes it resonate in my mind apart from all the other origin story superhero movies. Another returning character that I had heard rumors that he was going to be in it. I started to see some stuff on Twitter there. Uh, Ben Kingsley's character. What's his name even? Trevor. Yeah, Trevor the actor. Once I heard he was gonna be in it, I thought, okay, cool, makes sense. Maybe like the Mandarin, didn't really like his like depiction of him, so he kind of, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that he would show up, but I wasn't expecting for him to be such like an you can say integral part to the movie. It really was. He was essentially the catalyst for the characters for the story to get from like basically from point A to point B. And what I mean by that is referring to point A meaning like the real world, right, where they were, where the movie started, and getting into Talo and all the mystical side of Shang-Chi and everything else that came afterwards. Trevor was the link between them. And it's just, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that that's the case, especially with the circumstances of which it came. I just can't help but laugh, man. It was just the circumstances, and like I couldn't stop laughing. Like even in the theater, I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is how we're getting like how the story is progressing. It's literally through Trevor. I would say that I have like a bit of an issue with it, but with it being kind of like a ex machina per se, it's kind of just like, hey, like he's there. It makes sense why he's there, right? But I think the one thing that very much just kind of like pushed it over the edge for me was the fact that he was able to communicate and understand this like mystical creature that originated from the Talo region, right? Oh my god. And through this special relationship that he had with this creature, uh, the creature was able to navigate them, to lead them to Talo. Uh, I would say that it's a fault with the movie if I just, man, it was funny, So it made me laugh. So I mean, you can't take everything seriously with these movies. I mean, we're talking about superheroes and like just it's all fiction either way. So you got to take some things with a grain of salt, and that for me is like the thing that I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. At least it was done, in a comedic manner, and but yeah, it was definitely wow. I definitely didn't expect it. I gotta say that. So yeah, from that point on, everything is basically falls into spoilers because I feel like all that stuff, like the whole like the Talos stuff, everything that went on there was pretty much, yeah, behind closed doors. I mean, there was like a glimpse of that, of the whole like fight scene at the end in one of the trailers I recall, but nobody really knew what it was. Like, actually, I mean, I was actually thinking that that was maybe like a scene from like the past or something like that. But yeah, this all out just war, giant battle just breaks out between the Mandarin and his Ten Rings army, and the people from the village that are tasked to protect the gate, the gates to the dark world. And this is where I mentioned that things got crazy with the CGI. It started really cool, right, with like just like the two armies, the two fronts going head to head, and you kind of got like the one-on-one battles going on. Shang-Chi's aunt squared up with Death Dealer. Xialing was going up with Razor Knife. That's his name? Razor Fist. She was going up with Razor Fist, and Shang-Chi was going to fight Wen Wu, his father, head on. Wen Wu overpowers Shang-Chi, makes it to the gate and starts letting out some of the monsters behind there. Um, I want to say, man, there's just been way too many like instances. I feel there's been way too many things in the MCU recently pointing towards Mephisto. I don't know if it's just me again. I don't know, and I don't know. I'm not familiar. I'm very much not familiar with Shang-Chi in the comics, right? So I don't know if Mephisto has ever had any connection with the character in the comics at all whatsoever. But once they started mentioning like everything about like the dark world and like the demons coming out of it, and you started to see that they're kind of like demonic characters and they got like these tentacle things going on, and it's kind of like, okay, like who's the one behind all of this really? Plus, you got the voice inside of Wen Wu's head, right? The Mandarin, the voice where he kept hearing his deceased wife's voice, but it was presumably some other entity that was, or some other something. It was something else that was calling out to him to take advantage, I guess, to of the power of the Ten Rings to be able to open that gate so that he can get out. And to me, I don't know, man. That just feels like very like Mephisto-y. I mean, that's not a word, but like, and you got that. You got the stuff from WandaVision. You got Loki. Well, I mean that was kind of like explained like in the very first episode. You got like this picture of like a devil shows up on in the church, like where the what's his name? Mobius, where we first see Mobius like at a French church, and like they show like the devil and like with the stained glass, and I mean later they say it didn't have anything to do with Mephisto, and like it makes sense with Loki with the horns. Okay, fine, but um, I don't know, man. Not only that, there's a certain theory with the Far From Home Spider-Man trailer that just came out recently, that alludes that Doctor Strange may not be Doctor Strange as we see him in that trailer. That there may be other forces, Mephisto, that are in works there, and I don't know, man. It's already been revealed that King the Conqueror is, going to be going to be the main baddie, leading up for Phase 4. But who's to say that he is the only one, right? I mean, there, there could definitely be more than one, big player as far as on the villain side. Why can't there be, a Kang and maybe Mephisto team up, or maybe at some point they come at odds? Who knows? But I mean, the point being that it's just way too much coincidence, man. Like he's got to be in the book somewhere. I'm convinced, bro. Like, and the crazy thing about this movie is that they actually didn't get into it. They didn't get into that, like the whole like what was it exactly that was calling out to Wen Wu, and who it was exactly. I was maybe thinking we would see something in post credits, but yeah, no, nothing. Um, so I don't know. Maybe later down the line they'll show them, but I don't know, man. I just feel like it's way too much of a coincidence at this point. So getting back on track, yeah, he opens up the gate. We get these like soul sucking demons start coming out, and basically everyone has to team up to fight against them. And then we get this big giant water dragon helping out with the cause, and then this big ass like demon dragon comes out. I swear that thing looked like it jumped right out of like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It looked cool, man. It really looked cool, actually. But yeah, this is when I mentioned where it just became like a giant CGI mess. Because at this point, like the Shang-Chi and his sister Xialing, they're riding the water dragon, and they're basically going head to head with like the demon dragon. And yeah, it's just a lot of madness and explosions, and it was cool though. it was cool. Like the whole time I was thinking like this is very much like feeding to the inner child in me, like the whole like I guess like anime um of giant monster fights. Yeah, it was very much like feeding into that energy, and man, I bought it, man. It was good. Like it was a bit of a mess, like I said, like I mentioned earlier. It was a bit of a disconnect from like the more like personal, like hand to hand choreographed fighting that we were seeing earlier, but man, if it wasn't cool. And Wong shows up again at the very end. He shows up when with Shang-Chi and Katie at a bar talking to their friends, explaining everything that they went through. And he just shows up to call them through. And in the mid-credit scene, we get the continuation of that scene, right? So Wong is actually looking over the ring, seeing like what they're all about, like what's their deal, and we get to see some familiar faces. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk shows up, and very unexpectedly for me, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel shows up, and they're just providing their input. Everyone's just trying to see like where the I guess the source of the power of the Ten Rings and how Wong wasn't able to like put a label on it at all, and even less on Bruce's side. And Carol wasn't able to recognize it as far as like being any kind of like alien technology off of the world. So yeah, it provides this very like um, I'd say based reason like how Shang-Chi is now a part of like this whole cinematic universe, right? The power of the Ten Rings, like what that power is, where it originates from. And I wonder like just how like deep of a connection or how deep of an impact that's going to play as far as like the MCU and phase 4 moving forward. It's interesting. It's interesting to think. But for me, I very much enjoyed this because the whole time, when, with the lead up to Shang-Chi, the whole time I was very much wondering, like, how is he gonna like get how is he going to be like I guess like how are they gonna connect his story to the story of like the greater MCU, everything else that's going on. And it's the Ten Rings, right? The Ten Rings is basically the thing that kind of provides that link. And it seems that he is going to play a very a prominent role in the MCU moving forward. The post-credit scene, we see Xialing. She's stuck around at the Ten Rings compound, and we see that she is running the show. She's the new Mandarin, per se. And we see that she's like implementing some changes there. There are women training, and she's sprucing up the place to more to her style. And we get a lettering saying the Ten Rings will return. So that's very interesting to me. I'm wondering whether it's to say that the Ten Rings is just going to show up in future like MCU projects, or whether the Ten Rings will, or whether that is actually going to have its own like separate thing altogether. Because I can very much see that, like a Ten Rings, like maybe series on Disney Plus. I can very much see that happening, and I would very much enjoy to see that. Like I mentioned, like her performance, like that character was probably the one that like I enjoyed the most, stood out the most for me. So I'd be very like into that, to see like her running the Ten Rings and see whether she is. That's the question: whether she is actually like a hero or a villain or maybe an anti-hero of some sorts. Um, Thinking about it now, maybe she has. Maybe she'll like get some kind of link to the whole like the bad guy team that is being put together with like Yelena and the Captain America, the beheading Captain America. But yeah, maybe she is connected. Maybe she'll end up being connected to that somehow. I don't know. Interesting. I'm very much looking forward to that. To like seeing that character and them and that play out in the future. Though I'm very much looking forward to that. One last thing I wanted to point out. I very much enjoyed the I guess like I said earlier, the meat of like the story and like the performance, that going hand in hand was the dynamic in the relationship, the father son dynamic between Shang-Chi and Wen Wu. And I really like how it just came to a culmination at the end, them going head to head. And again, these more, the head to head fights were, very well done. And Shang-Chi finally like overpowering Wenwu, and having the 10 rings at his disposal. They were in his control, right? He could have easily used them to his advantage. But he didn't. He just, he tossed them to the side, and they were about to go at it again. But then we got, yeah, the giant demon dragon comes out. And it was a nice moment, though, because it was a moment where we see that Shang-Chi actually, he turns down that what his father taught him, basically. He turns that down, and he embraces more the side of his mother, right? It was with her fighting style that he was able to get the upper hand against his father. And it's with her last words in his head that he was able to overcome and get to that point. So that was a very nice sentiment. And then of course he ends up with the 10 rings, but it was good. It was played out very intelligently, I liked how it was played out in a sense where he turned down the rings, and then it actually came down to uh Wen Wu, his dad, actually having to like pass it down to him, right? To actually just, you know, he realizing that he's, at the end of his life, and, saying that, here, this is yours now, right? And at that point, Shang-Chi, made it his own, right? So that's what I guess the whole theme or story message behind the main story overall is it's not so much, don't worry, it's not so much what your the people or the things that make you, right, whether it's good, whether it's bad. um you yourself decide, what you want to do, and take what you've learned, take what you have at your disposal, and you decide what you want to do with that, right? So now he has the power of the 10 rings, right? It's represented visually as well. When Wenwu is using the 10 rings, they light up blue around his arms, and when they get passed over to Shang-Chi and he's in control of them, they light up in this warm, like orange yellowy color. So I very much enjoyed that. I very much, yeah, overall the message of the story, the kind of the story they were trying to deliver, it could have, I feel like it could have been, actually it could have been very easily cliched, and they avoided that with grace. A lot of things could have been cliched here, not just the story, like the fact that it was like, you know family drama, I guess you can say. Like you could have written that off as, typical like family drama, but it was very well done. It was done very personally, with the performances that helped a load as well. What I wanted to say more in depth about Tony Leung's performance, where we got to see more of that personal side in this, in regards to the wife, right? His wife passing away, and we actually had to see, like, we knew him to be a villain, right? But we actually got to see that, like, emotion, that, him losing his wife, how that made him distraught, and that leading into kind of like the manic of believing this voice, right? The voice of presumably his deceased wife, right? I mean, man, I think if any of us, have a loved one that we've lost, if we, heard, their voice, and if there was an opportunity, a chance to be able to see that person again, I think anybody would take it. So I think that adding that to the story was a very good way to kind of like ground him, right? And allow the audience to relate to him and make him a much more believable villain, right? Overall, they did a very good job with that. I didn't see that coming at all, so it was very welcome to see that side of that character, and it just added a whole another layer, a whole another dimension to the movie that I didn't see coming, and it just Man, the more I think about it, the more like I realize just how like impressive that is. You know, the fact that they were able to tell the story that the way that they did, avoiding like the possibility of so many cliches and just pulling it out, man. It was just yeah, they yeah, very well done. That's it. That's all I'm gonna leave it at. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know, leave a comment. Let me know what is it you enjoyed the most about the movie. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't like it as much, let me know what you didn't like about the movie. And yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to, you know, kind of, I'd love to comment on that as well. To see different people's points of views, if you can, and if you've made it this far. Thank you. And go ahead and leave. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this. I've been on a bit of a hiatus as a bit. I actually have a review for Black Widow that's still sitting in my computer. Yeah. But please subscribe. I'm sure I'll get it out at some point. So that and I also do gaming videos. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe for more content. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.